All right, I am joined again by Diante Lee, who now goes by his official title of PFF Diante. Diante will be joining us to write about and talk about college football in the NFL. So I just wanted to say welcome aboard.
Thank you. Glad to be here. And my actual title is PFF All 22.
I don't think they're going to like that one.
I don't think so either.
Let me go. A couple of weeks ago, I had you on, and then I had you on even before that, maybe like 2 months ago. But let's go into you quickly before we can talk about the national championship game. What is your background in football? Obviously, I know you play, and I know you've coached now. So give the listeners, give the people what they want to know, what they need to know about you.
Okay, so to paint the full picture, obviously, like just about anybody else, played high school ball. After that, I went to go play at Sacramento State for 3 seasons. The guy who recruited me there, his name is Andy Avalos, and now the head coach at Boise State. So he was a linebackers coach who brought me in to Sac State. After I walked away from football there, came back home around 2015-ish, and my dad was coaching at my alma mater, high school. So I decided to, kind of go under his wing, get some tutelage with the coaching thing, and then I happened to fall in love with it. Around the same time, group of people that I kind of got in contact with on social media, Justice Mosqueda, Charles McDonald, I'm sure names that are familiar to everybody. That was back when Chuck was Sunday Fiasco, I think. So
that's even before my time.
Yeah. So, I kind of got connected with these guys, and through that, I started writing a little bit. Worked at Fansided after that for a bit. Worked with Mark Schofield at Inside the Pylon for about a year or so time. Made my own site, The Post Corner, following that. And then, I was kind of plugging away there. Got noticed by some people in Ohio. So I was freelancing for the Cleveland.com site, doing Ohio State Buckeyes coverage. And then from there, obviously, sometime between all of that stuff happening, I got connected with you. You ended up here with PFF, and, this ended up being a good marriage for everybody.
What position did you play?
So I played linebacker when I was in high school.
Which linebacker?
We switched schemes while I was there. So we went from a 4-3 to like a 3-4-5-2. So I went from playing will backer, which is also what I played at Sac State. And then I was kind of like the rush end in a 3-4 my senior year. So I've kind of done a little bit of everything. That season I finished it playing strong safety. So I played I played just about everything.
Did you like being on the ball or off the ball more?
Man, that's tough. I loved being on the ball until I realized that if you're good in high school, they just run away from you. That's the part that wasn't so fun. And all of a sudden, there's always a tight end on the field, and you don't just get to tear off against tackles. It's not as cool anymore.
Did you find so my favorite thing in the world to coach and to play? Okay, maybe besides quarterback. If I take away quarterback, because this is what I know.
Mm-hmm.
It's not so stupid, but dropping into a zone. Like an area, a spot drop. I love coaching it, and for some reason I love doing it. Like if I'm dropping into the hook, dropping into the curl, into the flat, I don't know why. I just there's something when I play I didn't play defense growing up. I played corner, which is a little different. You're not dropping on an angle and figuring out the distribution and running to a hip and all that stuff. It's different. For some reason, when I play flag now, something about seeing the route develop in front of you and trying to figure out the threats as they come through your eyesight and stuff like that. I don't know. I love dropping into zones. I don't know. I just wanted to put that out there that I love dropping into zones.
Man, you almost set up an excellent segue for teams that are not as good and don't have as much fun dropping in the zones.
Well, okay. Let's get into the national championship game. This national championship game played out like we said it was going to play out. Actually, I would say for like 90% of it. And the 10% where it didn't play out, they went in the complete opposite direction of where we said they should go. So explain. Yeah, let's start from the top. Explain. We're gonna do this every week. We're gonna do this every week in the off season, and then we're gonna do this every week in the 2021 season. Explain what Ohio State does on defense.
So they are. The best way I can say it, I'll start big, then go small, and go big picture again. So big picture comparison. Think Seattle Seahawks from 2011 through 2014. 4-3. They're playing over front. They've got their 3 base linebackers. Your strong safety is down either over the slot or over the tight end, depending on how they want to rotate it. And you got your free safety standing in the middle of the field. And it's cover 3. And if they're feeling, they're feeling sexy, they're feeling like mixing it up, you get some cover 1 and you get some fire zone. And that's about it. I wish I was joking, and I wish that was an exaggeration of what it is, but that is who they are on defense.
And then, I don't want to gloss over the fact that it's a 4-3 rather than a 4-2, which is nominally what people play in 2020. There's no
3-4 where you can rotate in either direction.
Exactly. So we spent the whole time, the whole season saying, okay, if you want to play like this, if you want to be a team that is showing one high, they don't even rotate that much. They did later in the season, but early in the season and last year, barely any rotation, especially on early downs. So they showed it. So it's corners on the outside. The strong safety person is down on the slot, and the Sam, let's say it's trips. The Sam is on the tight end. So, this is the. I don't even know what to say. It's teams know that they're going to be doing this. They've been doing it for 2 years now. But when you have 2 first-round cornerbacks, the number 2 overall pick as your defensive end, as this is one of the best pass rushers of all time. Because I don't know if they were doing this necessarily when the Boses were there. I think Shiano was a little more diverse, at least a little more. I don't remember it that much, but I'm pretty sure he was actually probably a lot more diverse. So when you have, that's like the 3, that's it, like 3 of the 4 most important positions. The 2 corners and an edge. And then probably 4 and 5 is like your maybe Will or Mike, and then the free.
Right.
Those are your guys that you need to have. So they lose those 2 guys, those 3, and actually 4. Is Jordan Fuller playing the post last year? I'm pretty sure. Or was he a down guy? I think he was a post guy.
Pretty sure he was a post.
So you're losing let's say 4 of the top 4 positions you need to run this defense well. But get away with it. They go 6-0, 7-0, whatever the hell it was. They kind of get away with it in the semifinal because they're able to whip Clemson up front.
Yep.
Because look, on the outside they didn't win. They certainly Sean Wade certainly didn't win on the outside.
No.
So you're playing this 4-3, Sam linebacker rather than nickel, showing your coverage. Now again, they rotated a little more in that Clemson game, and then I think in the Bama game too. But we said the whole time, do you know who you're playing against? Do you know who is on the other side of the field now? Who has players who can run and catch and make plays throughout the lineup in terms of the receiving core. You look at that 88 from Clemson, the tight end. Good player. Right. Big player. He's not 19 from that Bama, man.
No, right. It's not close.
It's different. It's totally different. So
it's not close.
So we've said this the whole week. Hey, dude, go play some nickel. What do? Not only do they not play nickel, but I think against 12 personnel, which Alabama did run a little bit, they brought in a 4th linebacker. So normally against 11 personnel, you play nickel. Against 12 personnel, then you can play base.
Play base.
And you don't even have to.
Right.
You don't even have to. So, with all that said, what happened on Monday night?
Okay, so in order to explain it, I actually want to circle back to something you were touching on.
Okay.
So for the people who are listening who maybe don't have as intimate of knowledge of like cover three as a philosophy or just playing single high defense as a philosophy, the idea of it is you can cover everything on the perimeter one-on-one. That's the reason why the defense works.
Yep.
You're not doing it because you are trying to outthink, outsmart, out-scheme anybody. The entire idea of the defense is you can live with the one-on-one matchups you'll get on the perimeter. And the trade-off for that is that you have one more body in the box than they have blockers, right? So that is the thinking, which is why, in the NFL, at high levels of football, playing cover three and cover one is effective. If you go back and watch how LSU played Clemson in last year's title game, they were able to live in cover one for a lot of the first half because at that point in time, by the time they got to that game, the defense had been in enough of a rhythm and had a pretty good feel for what they had personnel-wise, and they could live with a Grant Delpit on a slot if they needed to. Kerry Vincent Jr. could stand up in coverage.
Specifically that one, I think Aranda had just felt like, we can play cover one now. Like, exactly. You know what I mean? Like, the second half of the season, they were running that shit a lot by the second. Anyways, this is kind of getting beside the point. But I think Aranda just.
But that is to your point. But that is to your point, right? By the time the end of the season came around, Aranda said, we have quarters. We can run quarters. But my guys are good enough to cover their guys.
2016, 2017, 2018, they're running quarters all day, right? Tight 2, tight 4. That's right. What they're doing.
Exactly. And when you have like a Patrick Queen on roster, it's like, okay, is that an ideal matchup against a slot or a tight end? Maybe not, but he's fast enough to at least be in the hip pocket, and deny throws, versus 80% of their competition. So you can live with that. What ended up happening on Monday is kind of what everybody expected. Ohio State just didn't have the dudes. It's the simplest thing. It sounds reductive. They just did not have the dudes to run the defense that they ran.
It made it a lot easier for, I think, Alabama to game plan because, they knew what type of matchups they're going to get because it's not even just, we talked about this. It's not even just, hey, we're in cover 3, cover 1. It's playing with the Sam on the field changes how you can even play cover 3 and cover 1. Because as I said, where does the Sam have to attach to? He has to be near the box. He can't, the nickel now can do both. And obviously if you have a good one, that's great. But the nickel can do both. He can be inside, let's say, I always think about it in the trips perspective. So it's 3 receivers to one side. The nickel, if he's a good player, or he's like the Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, in Notre Dame. He's a Sam, but he's Bo, he's a hybrid.
Right, whatever. Those kind of Swiss Army knife type of guys.
So now you can play around with him. But the nickel can play both inside on the number 3, the innermost slot, and he can play in the middle slot, the number 2. Mm-hmm. With the Sam, and especially the way that Ohio State played their Sam, he could only play inside. They want him near the box. They want him near the box. So if he's near the box and you have trips, you have a corner outside on number 1, you have that Sam who I just talked about on number 3, where can this safety go? He has to come down. There's only one spot left. Yeah. He has to come down. Now I know that Ross Fulton, who's a good follow on Twitter, and I don't know his ad, and he's a good Ohio State writer, had talked about how they had rotated week sometimes. Mm-hmm. But for the most part, they're a strong rotation team with a slot, the safety coming down over the middle slot, the number 2 slot in trips. Yep. So not only is it, we're going to rotate down to cover 3 because, again, we said this last week, Alabama plays cover 3. It's cover 3. Everyone plays cover 3, right? It's not a big deal. But what Alabama can do, because they play with a nickel, and now they have a good nickel. Malachi Moore is a good nickel, and even I kind of like the play of this kid who they brought in, Branch on Monday night and against Notre Dame too. He's a good player. They're both good players. Now you can just mess around a bit more. Now you can rotate strong, you can rotate weak, and he doesn't always have to come down on the number 2 receiver. Now he can play in the middle of the field in that hook, what we call like the hook zone, right? And you can do it from depth. And now you can create layers to your defense.
Exactly.
And instead of it being kind of like a 2-layer defense in terms of the zone coverage, you kind of have 2.5. You kind of have 3. And now you can pick people up from depth. You know, our friend, a good friend of ours, I got this from him. I'm sure you got this from somewhere else, but a good friend of ours, at C Mike Spin Move on Twitter, says the words, he uses the term staggered hooks a lot. And I think that's such a great, terminology for it, because it's like the hooks are not just a one level of defense. Now we can have 2 levels within our kind of quote unquote underneath defenders. And again, Ohio State could not do that. So I go back to the question. They can't do anything. They can only do this one thing. So then Alabama said what to them? They said, "Go. Anyway, you can answer that question."
You find the fish, as Urban Meyer would say. You find the fish and you attack the fish over and over and over again. And it wasn't any one particular player. Like, if you go back and watch, especially like between the second and third quarter when Alabama was really rolling, they got every single matchup that they were after. Whether it's, Najee Harris on a wheel route, up the boundary after running that orbit motion from the X receiver, whether it's what they were doing with Seven Banks and Devontae Smith with that kind of boomerang motion when they knew they were in man, Sean Wade being out one-on-one, to the boundary, being able to pick on him when they needed to. Borland, obviously, on that, poor.
It's not his fault, man.
It's not his fault. It's not. I know, and I think I said that on Twitter when I retweeted the clip. I was like, I'm laughing, but it's not funny because he got beat. It's funny because there was no other way that could have possibly played out.
That's what we kept saying. Like when... Okay, we'll explain this again. Cover 3 against trips. How teams... So, we think if you put it just on a blackboard, everyone dropped into their zone, it's all good. But you can't like just do that because there's 3 receivers to one side. There's only 1 receiver to the side. Everything kind of has to push to that 3 receiver side. And one of the ways that cover 3 teams do it, not every team does it, but it feels like 90% of them do it. They're going to take this is how I wrote it in my article. The third player from the sideline on the short side of the field. So you have the corner there. Then you have the flat player.
Right.
And then the next player inside. So we call it the weak hook player. His job is, because there's only 1 receiver and maybe a running back, and they're okay because you have 2 players outside of him. He's okay. Their weak side is kind of covered. But because everything needs to push strong, he himself, even though he's the quote-unquote weak hook player, he is going to look to the strong side of the field and kind of, in a sense, he is going to pick up anything coming deep and over, like the Devonta Smith route, like that ladder route, that seam route, the over route, whatever you want to call it. Because now that they can allow the safety to push to the field.
Right.
Instead of him being where over the ball, and now you have all the space to the field. Now he can push, and you're able to use that kind of backside player to push the numbers and get more numbers to the strong side. And again, why is it that Tough Borland had to be that player who had to run with Devonta Smith deep? Because they're only in cover 3 sky.
It's one thing.
Cover 3 sky. That's it.
It's one thing, and so what you just described from a coaching perspective, what I always tell that guy is you set the wall of the defense, right? So when you're dropping anything that's coming back, it's like there is a dividing line between a zone side and a man side. So to the man side, as you described it, that flat, quote unquote, flat player and the quote unquote deep third player, so they're really playing like a man key on their receiving threats. He sets the wall. And this kind of goes into the point that, I've tried to reference with people when they ask me about Ohio State. I usually draw a reference to Clemson. At least when Clemson was at its peak, when Venables had all the pieces that he needed. If there's one thing that people notice, because he's a 4-3 guy too. But if there's one thing that you notice is in order to mitigate the matchup problems that you might have from playing base, he plays safeties as Sams and Wills. And you play safeties as your free and strong. And what that does for you is allows you to say, okay, this week, when they go trips, the number 3 receiver is a guy that's a problem. I want to make sure that my best guy is rotating down that's going to, eliminate the route that makes him a problem. Maybe another week it's the number 2 receiver to the field. Maybe another week it's a tight end. And what it does is that it just buys you a little bit extra. You get a little bit extra, kind of layers to your defense. So you are running the same thing, but it presents itself enough different ways to where you can sow some seeds of doubt. And then obviously with that, the more of those layers that you have, the more likely it is that you can run other stuff. I was having this debate with, I believe, Ian Boyd, when we were talking about, Ohio State's defense personnel wise. And the argument that I was making is that it's not that anybody's wrong to have the criticism and say that what Ohio State is doing defensively just isn't going to work against a team that talented with that personnel. The point I'm trying to make is, okay, so take the structure of this defense and you pick the coverage and tell me how that's going to stop what's happening right now. Because it just doesn't exist. If you play cover 4, now when they go trips, the weak safety has got to poach, and now you're really undressing the defense. And by poach, I mean he's the one looking at number 3 the way we described that you would in a cover 3 look versus trips. And they're just the problem is not the scheme. I think people can get very, 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 very kind of distracted by how flashy a scheme is, and it has its place. The real issue is, do you have the dudes to cover their dudes? Because if you don't, I don't care what you run. You can't double everybody and stop the run at the same time.
Yeah.
You can't stop the run and cover everybody at the same time. You have to make these trade-offs.
But my concern is more with, shouldn't they have known they don't have the dudes?
Yes.
I think that's where I'm like, we make fun of them cover 3, cover 1. It's a scheme and they run it well. It's not like they don't run the scheme well. It's just like maybe the scheme didn't fit their personnel this year like it did last year. And maybe it will next year. Like, I don't know. Like, you know what I mean? Like, Banks will come back. Wade might come back. Like, they can all come. And he might have a better season. He might feel like, oh, wait a minute. Like, this is not a good season. Let me work on what I did wrong and come back even better. They might find a nickel they like. Because remember.
I mean, they lost half of their defensive starters from the year before. So, this stuff happens to defenses anyways, which is why I'm like, I don't want to just say that the magic bullet is run a different defense and it fixes everything. There'll always be a hole, which is why, the personnel becomes more important. Those are the types of dividing lines. When we're talking about the teams with blue chip ratios up in the 80%, where they have 80% of their roster is 4 or 5-star talent by the time they leave high school. We are talking about the best of the best of the best anyways. Now it's just a matter of, do you really have that 1 or 2 guys that can erase the other team's 1 or 2 best guys? This year, they didn't have it.
No.
Last year, I mean, if they had played LSU in the title game last year, they would have the same coverage issues. Yep. What they had last year was Chase Young, that gets to erase, that erases some of your problems. Yeah. So these are the types of things that, people have to be mindful of when we kind of spin this conversation forward. And you and I have mentioned this, on social media, and I'm sure amongst other people. But, when we have these conversations about coaching, this is just what Ohio State is, guys. We can all bang our heads up against the wall night and day about, what coverage they call, what front they're in. This is who they are. So the evaluation really just needs to be on, do they have the guys for it? And right now, or at least this year, they didn't when it came down to it and they played their best opponent.
Okay, let's flip over to Alabama because they're one of the few teams who does do a lot of stuff on defense. Mm-hmm. And I guess, like, before we get into that, because that brings up a point, like, I think most teams are Ohio State. They really are. They do a few things. They try and do it well because there's so much different stuff that the offense can throw at you. There's so much different because it's not even just a formation thing. It's where the receivers are in the formation. There's so much, right, that an offense can give to you that you don't want to be thinking before the snap, right? You want to get it. I've seen it before. We talked about this. I know it. Blah blah blah. Alabama feels like, and you know more about their coverages than I do. It feels like they have a lot in their toolbox, man, and they could just go to it whenever they want to.
Yeah. So if keeping with the college theme, if we were to consider what Ohio State does as maybe, your bachelor's study, Alabama's a PhD.
Yeah.
Like that's really what it is. You talk to coaches and a lot of people will say, oh, we have some quarter stuff that we like. We've got some cover 2 stuff we like. We've got some, single high stuff that we like. Usually what they mean is we have one single high coverage. We maybe have 2 or 3 variations of our quarter stuff. And we've got maybe 1 or 2 cover 2 things that we like. With Alabama, it's like, no, we have the entire menu of every cover 2 coverage that's been run since 1985. We've got every version of quarters that you've ever seen. We can double any receiver that we need to. We can rotate coverages in any direction that we need to. So it's just a different level of defense. Now, it's burned them at times. It's absolutely burned them at times. You can go back and watch when Ole Miss was wearing them out. Yeah. Not just this year. I mean, when they had Bo Wallace and Chad Kelly, when Ole Miss was doing something simple and Alabama was doing something complicated, and sometimes an offense's mentality of we're just going to find your hole and just keep poking the hole. We're just going to keep poking the hole bigger and bigger. That kind of stuff can be effective. For what Alabama has on offense right now, they can be as deep on defense as they want to be because, you've got the security blanket of 50 points, coming one way or the other.
So then in this game, felt like, because it's funny because, Ohio State scored some points in this game.
Yeah,
it's not like Alabama shut them out. It's just like that.
It was very entertaining up until like the last 4 minutes of the second quarter.
How do you think they were able to? 2 things I think helped them, quote unquote, win the game defensively. I felt like they stopped the run pretty well.
Yeah.
And then I don't even have an answer to this. I'll just leave it to you. Like, how do you think they were able to get to Fields? I think maybe that's my answer right there. It's like I think maybe they were able to get to Fields more than he would have liked to, obviously. Mm-hmm. And that was probably the game because I actually, was watching it again, and Fields early missed a shot this would have been a touchdown on the first drive of the game when they played the thumbs coverage on the on the first third down.
I know exactly.
On the third down, he really should see the safety fly out there and then be like, "Wait a minute, the other safety's not there no more," and then just hit the tight end over the middle, which he did later, maybe in the second drive or third drive, whatever it was. And then he missed. I don't remember. He missed somebody. Oh yeah, the post. I remember talking to you about this during the game. I thought, when he overthrew the shallow, so maybe in the second quarter was it?
I believe, yeah, about middle of the second quarter, I think.
Middle quarter. So he overthrows that shallow route on.
Mm-hmm. It was Garrett Wilson. You missed it on Garrett Wilson. Yeah.
I think he has a lav. I think the safety tells him that you have a shot to number 2 on the outside. Mm-hmm. So besides those 2, I'm like, man, he made some really nice throws.
Yeah.
He made some really nice reads. They just heated him up maybe a couple more times than they would have liked.
I think that really what it came down to, and you can really see it in that second quarter where they were able to put together these explosive plays. He was just beating tight coverage with his arm.
Yeah.
That's really what it was. Whether it was a corner route, to Olave, that was pretty tight coverage that he was able to beat him with.
There, yeah.
When he hit Ruckert on that kind of seam bender against that 2-man look, again, that's a tight window throw. Like, we're talking high level franchise quarterback, level throws. And I just think that because they did not have the threat of the run game, eventually Alabama, that tight coverage just gets tighter and tighter and tighter. And he was just sitting there patting the ball some of those reps, and nobody's coming open. And you leave a guy like Barmore, with 4.5 seconds to work, on the inside, you're going to have some trouble, let alone their edge pressure guys. So that's really what I think ended up, kind of sinking them in the third and fourth quarters is they just couldn't get open.
I don't know if that Ohio State offense, like schematically is a good matchup for Alabama's defense. Like in terms of Ohio, like I don't think Ohio State. I think Alabama can be beaten. You talked about Ole Miss this year, Florida this year. That's not what Ohio State does. There's the insane tempo that Kiffin gave them with all sorts of formations and this and that and whatever, blah blah blah. And then with Florida, it's hey, we're gonna spread you out. We got better players than you,
right?
And we can win.
Right.
So we can win over the middle because you're going to play your Mike against Kyle Pitts, and that's not going to work.
Happen. Yeah.
You know what I mean? And stuff like that. So Ohio State's more of a, I don't know how to put it. They're going to play offense. I don't know how else to put that. They're going to play offense. Go.
Actually, no. I think what you're pointing at is how do teams get to their explosive plays? And each team has a different recipe. So when it's Ole Miss, it's, we're turbo. I'm going to throw 1,000 different formations at you because I know every time I go to this little boutique formation, you've got to have some boutique check. Yeah. And it's going to leave you with a hole. I can exploit that hole. When it's Florida, I can go empty and put, my one-of-a-kind tight end at any one of these 5 receiving spots. And the second you give me your indicator on what kind of coverage you're running, now I can spray the ball everywhere else. Maybe I just want to hit Pitts, but I still got Trevon Grimes, if you leave him one-on-one. I've got Kadarius Toney if you leave him one-on-one. I think Ohio State's recipe for it, what they realized by the end of the year was the run game is what set it up for them. Trey Sermon gets hurt, first play of the game. And, Teague is a talented running back, but he does not run with the kind of pace and tempo and vision that Sermon does. It's no knock on him. Sermon's been playing college football for 4 years now, at a very high level. So he's seen it all. And that's really where I think it got difficult for Fields is there was no change of pace. So now you can't have a 2-yard gain on first down. It's got to be 7, because you can't be behind the sticks. Because you're getting some man match type of thing. Alabama's not going to play soft coverage if you don't have the threat of the run game, and that was really the issue for them. Early in the game, they were able to march, but, when you need that change of pace, when it was clear that Ohio State's defense couldn't continue to force Alabama to go 11, 13, 16 plays, and they had really figured them out, that's when that run game would have at least allowed them to say, okay, we can sit on it for 4 or 5 minutes of game time. Maybe we hit a shot. Even if we don't score, we can flip the field, and use time as a constraint against this offense to help our defense out. They just got everything unraveled on them between the end of the second quarter and beginning of the third.
I thought, you talk about sticky coverage, I thought they were able to, when they play one high, when they play man, sure. But man, you look at how they're so clean and how they pass off routes in their man match stuff, and there's in their like 2 high match stuff. Like, man, it's good. Yeah. Like it makes you want to be like, hey, let me go. When I coach, this summer when I coach the girls, I'm gonna be like, yeah, let's put in. Whatever, all the C7 stuff.
We're going to be in Steelers, Seahawk, and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, exactly. Absolutely.
It's like, because they make it look so easy, and it's so not. And I also find it crazy that they still have room for freshmen to come in. Like I talk about Branch and Malachi Moore, and there's always a freshman guy that can come in and play for them. Because it's, like you said, it's PhD level. So like when those kids come in and they can play it right away, and this year without an off season, man, that's something else. Okay, so anyways, you have any final thoughts on this game from any point of view?
I think that the fact that Ohio State was not able to win up front the way they were against Clemson, I mean that was
I'm probably on both sides too.
Yeah, that was really the nail in the coffin for them. And I think everybody kind of realized it when they saw what the inactive list was, and saw that Togiai was out. That was their dude. When they needed somebody to win on the interior against one-on-one blocking, he was a guy for it. And without that, though again, we're talking about these thin margins against elite teams. That is a margin enough to where Alabama can go on a 16-play, 75-yard drive and eat up 7.5 minutes of game time to start the second half because you can't generate any negative plays. You're just trying to stop the bleeding. And that's really, that was really a big issue for them. Can't get pressure, can't cause negative plays. Alabama knows what you're running, and it was just explosive play after explosive play.
Okay, let's head to we're going to get out of here, but let's head to 2021. It's January, I don't know what the dates are going to be, but just say it's January 1st, 2021. The two semifinals are on TV. Hoopst is playing in those two games.
So, I will say the one team that I'm almost certain of, and I'm going to sound like a homer. I know I'm going to sound like a homer, but it's Clemson. And it's only because I know what their quarterback is.
We agree. I have Clemson too, so we agree.
I have Clemson there, and then I want to say Alabama. I want to say Alabama based on their recruiting. I don't really know what their roster turnover is going to be like because this was a pretty big senior class.
Yeah,
even by Alabama standards.
They brought back a lot of people who didn't need to be there. They usually don't keep
guys for longer than 3 years. At least not the kind of guys that are as good as the ones that they had this year. So I don't know what their roster turnover is going to be like. I'm going to guess that they're going to be there. So that will be, my SEC champion representative. And then I'm not sure. I'm really not sure on the last two.
Okay, so I didn't go Alabama. I'm going, and everyone says this every year, and it doesn't happen. I'm going Georgia. It's going to happen because your boy is going to play well, okay? Because JT Daniels is going to play well.
I don't hate that.
Look, we say it every year, but they return so much talent. I mean, they did this year, and they didn't go anywhere because of the quarterback play. So if they return the same amount of talent, which give or take they will, obviously losing players in the secondary is going to hurt. But, man, that offense could be nasty next year. Love their receiving core. If JT Daniels is the quarterback that a lot of people think he is, which I don't think he is, then they're in the playoffs. I think that's for sure.
Right.
Like if he improves to the level, like when you really watch him, he's been very good, but he hasn't been unbelievably elite like I think people have thought he was for the last few games.
It doesn't have to be, that explosion that you just mentioned to end the season. If he's just as good as he was in the Cincinnati game, that's probably 100%. Good enough for that. That's good enough for them.
I think so too.
No turnovers, no sacks. Get the ball where it needs to go. Find your one-on-one matchups when they're there. That's probably good enough considering the ridiculous amount of talent that they seem to have.
Okay. So that's the SEC. Obviously Alabama. Obviously LSU is going to go undefeated, but we won't put them in there. I think you got to go with Oklahoma.
Yes, based on the way the Rattler ended the year. Yeah.
Once he figures it out, it's over for everybody.
I mean that and the defense. I definitely don't want to sell the defense short. The defense looked very good. They were much improved, as good as it's been in years. So. If that's what they're returning, from a scheme perspective, and it looks like they have another quarterback, that's the real deal. They should win the Big 12 going away. That will be my guess.
I think so. The thing is, like Iowa State's going to return. I think Purdy and what's the running back's name again?
Yeah, what is the back's
name? Whatever, 28, 22, whatever his name is, doesn't matter. God, what the hell? It slipped my mind because we didn't put him on like the PFF All-American team or something like that. Bryce, his name is Bryce White. No, it's not Bryce White.
It's not bad. It's not.
It doesn't matter. So I got to stop talking about this. So I'm going to look like an idiot. Okay. Like those two guys returning and being upperclassmen and Purdy going to be playing 4 years is important. But he has to play like he's got to play it. Like you can't just be like, okay, well you're a senior now, so you're automatically going to be great. He's got to play well. But they're gonna give Oklahoma a run. I think Texas. Who knows?
Who knows? Right? Yeah, I'm not going to project on what Sark is going to be like year one. There's no telling. There's absolutely no telling.
And then my fourth team, my dark horse team, and I fell in love, man. North Carolina Tar Heels. Like
I'm not mad at that either. I'm really not.
They lose good players. Like the two running backs could fucking play. Yeah. And I think they're losing either one of the receivers, either Diame or Jazz. And one of them's coming back, I believe. Though they might lose both of them too. I'm not sure. Sam Howell could play. Yeah. And now we're talking about year 3 in the Mac Brown year. They recruited really well, recruited very well for who they are. I'd like them as the dark horse. It's tough because you're gonna get a loss to Clemson most likely, and then you're at the Wolves, right? Then you got to live in a world where you're hoping other teams aren't undefeated. You're hoping like a USC or an Oregon doesn't go undefeated and mess with you or something like that. But those, so for me, Clemson, Georgia, OU, North Carolina. If I want to go out on a limb, those are my four.
Let me look. Oh, you might actually be right on point with this because they don't have Clemson this upcoming year.
You know who does have Clemson, though?
Who's that?
Georgia Bulldogs.
That's right. That's right.
Wild.
That's to open the season. Oof. Okay,
it's going to be the first college football game with people in the stands in a year.
I know. Give me an early pick. Which way would you lean?
I'm going to say... I know where you're going to go.
I'm picking Georgia.
So you're picking Georgia?
I'm picking
Georgia. I think you're the Clemson because I know you love DJ.
Yeah, but no, I'm picking Georgia.
Okay, fine. I'll go Clemson then because I like DJ too.
I'm going Georgia just because of what they are defensively. That's a lot to ask. First time, full-time starter. That's a lot to ask for basically, your first real start outside of that Notre Dame game. It's going to be a much different experience.
How do you think that new Clemson offense next year is going to look like? And I don't know that offense very well. But do you think it's going to look like the Kelly Bryant offense they ran a few years ago?
I don't think they'll run DJ that much.
Okay.
Because he can really throw.
Yeah.
Kelly could kind of throw. It's not the same as DJ. I think I posted the clip against Boston College where he do that dig, and you can't even track the ball on the screen. Because he throws it so hard.
He came back to it too. Front side not there, come back to the dig, and it rifled it in there.
He's another one of those kind of, football computer alien type guys. So I think that I still pick Clemson because I do think they will roll through the rest of their conference schedule. And that should be enough to where maybe it's set up to where the winner of the ACC championship game ends up being the representative because North Carolina does have to play Notre Dame at Notre Dame. So that might end up being a loss just based on scheduling. But yeah, that's a pretty good 4. Oklahoma, I would say with the bullet. I don't dislike Iowa State, but
I think they're better. I think they're just better than
there were some Brock Purdy games this year that were just gross.
Boy.
They were just rough.
Well, but the media, and so not the media, but the College Football Playoff Committee apparently forgot about all those games when they were doing the rankings, but whatever.
Yeah, some of those games were gross. Nobody from the Pac-12. I don't see it. USC is not even close yet. Oregon, until Oregon gets a quarterback, I don't see it for them. They're quarterback short.
I was wrong about Tyler Shuck, let me tell you. Me and Jeff Schwartz talking on this podcast in September, being like, "Oh yeah, we're me and him like, yeah, this guy who threw 15 passes last year going to be the best quarterback of all time."
Yeah,
like Jesus, we were wrong about that one.
Yeah, and UW is still kind of trying to find its identity now that Peterson's not there anymore. There's really not a lot from the Pac-12, and Ohio State is losing, in my opinion, the best quarterback that they've ever had. Maybe the best quarterback that they'll ever have. So. That bringing in, I'm going to guess that the Quincy Ewers kid from Texas is going to be the day one starter based on what I've heard about his talent level. And I'm not picking a brand new quarterback, after they're going to lose Chris Olave. They're going to lose Trey Sermon. There's a lot of production that's on the way out.
I'm not sure I see another, and I think that they could still win the Big Ten. Because I look at this and the rest of the Big Ten and I'm like, I like Penn State, but it's the quarterback situation I don't know about. I like Michigan, but I don't know about the quarterback situation. And it's like, well, okay, Minnesota, they're going to lose Tanner Morgan, who was at least a good college quarterback, and losing Bateman now. Now that whole team from 2 years ago is gone. Yeah. Indiana might do it. Maybe it's Indiana.
I mean, maybe. Yeah, maybe. So.
All right. Expect to hear a lot of Diante's voice on this podcast going forward. And again, I just want to welcome you to PFF. We're all very excited to have you.
Thank you.
You can follow him at, what is it, at D_Lee on?
It's a DLEE_TPC. I may actually, everybody's calling me a coward for not changing my handle, so maybe I will. But for now, it's DLee_TPC. That's where you can find me on Twitter.
All right. Thanks a lot, D.
All right, I'll talk to you.